Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. So if you've been following the corporate world at all lately, you probably noticed a massive surge in ESG, environmental, social, and governance marketing. It seems like literally every major brand out there is promising us this greener, cleaner future. Yet when you actually trace the supply chains or just walk down a physical store aisle, truly sustainable products at scale are still incredibly rare. Kind of wild, right? Well, today, we're diving into a fascinating academic report that tackles what we might call the case of the missing sustainable product. We're going to figure out exactly why eco-friendly products so often fail to survive the harsh reality of the open market, despite the billions being poured into green PR, and what this deep systemic disconnect means for all of us.
But to figure out why these products are missing in action, we first need to establish a clear baseline. What exactly is sustainable design?
Okay, let's dive into this. The research defines sustainable design as design that accounts for environmental aspects at all production levels, aiming for the lowest possible ecological impact across the entire life cycle of a product. Now, this isn't just about sticking a recycled cardboard tag on a plastic toy and calling it a day. Not at all. It means rigorously evaluating an incredibly complex web of variables. It's like a giant puzzle. You have to ask, where are the raw materials coming from? You're calculating the exact carbon cost of shipping a single raw component across 3 different continents before it's even assembled. It requires tracking water usage, energy on the factory floor, how the consumer actually interacts with the product, and, critically, what happens to the whole shebang when it's finally thrown away. It is a massive, comprehensive undertaking that literally leaves no stone unturned. And this brilliantly illustrates the core of our problem today. A researcher named Lyro summed this up perfectly back in 2009, noting that despite the buzz caused by this new productive guideline, the consolidation of ecological products in the market has been minimal. It's a staggering paradox, isn't it? We're witnessing this total collision between the incredible hype of modern green living and the actual undeniable reality of the market. The corporate buzz is just deafening. The marketing campaigns are everywhere, but the physical products themselves, they just aren't scaling. The demand is treated like this global revolution, yet the actual output remains incredibly niche.
So, what's actually causing this massive disconnect? Let's interrogate the system and explore the market paradox.
We've got 3 main suspects to interrogate here. First up, is the designer's role adequate? Like, are the creators themselves just not doing enough to ensure success? Well, the research suggests this isn't really about a lack of trying. Designers face extreme constraints. They might be super eager to use sustainable materials, but they're frequently blocked by strict budgets, impossibly tight production timelines, or even just a lack of specialized training in eco-materials. They're forced into making compromises way too early in the development phase simply because the traditional, less sustainable path is fundamentally easier and, frankly, significantly cheaper to execute.
Let's move quickly to our second suspect. Is there a serious business conscience? We really have to ask if companies genuinely possess the deep, responsible mindset needed to carry out real eco-design projects. Or are they just greenwashing? The findings point toward a pretty sobering reality. Many businesses prioritize short-term profits over long-term planetary health. Why? Because scalable, sustainable infrastructure basically doesn't exist yet. Overhauling entire supply chains to be genuinely green requires immense capital expenditure. So instead of taking on the massive financial risk of true eco-design, companies often just do the bare minimum to look good on an ESG report. They avoid the structural changes required for real impact.
And finally, let's hit the third suspect, which, honestly, might just be you and me. Are eco-products attractive enough? Think about it. As a consumer, when you see a sustainable product sitting right next to a traditional one, are you actually drawn to it? We've all experienced that moment of eco-guilt in the grocery store. You really want to buy the bamboo toothbrush or the zero-waste detergent, but it costs double the price. Or maybe the packaging just looks a bit less durable. Ultimately, you quietly reach for the cheaper, plastic-wrapped alternative because it meets your immediate needs for aesthetics, functionality, and budget. If the eco-product doesn't effortlessly replace the traditional one, consumer adoption hits a massive wall.
So the researchers found that the solution to this mystery isn't isolated to just one bad actor. The responsibility is completely intertwined in what they call the triad of responsibility.
So the crucial point is that there are 3 actors who collectively hold the key to sustainable products: the industry, the consumer, and the design professional. Think of it exactly like a 3-legged stool. If the industry refuses to invest the capital, the stool falls. If the consumer doesn't buy the product because of price or aesthetics, the stool falls. And if the designer fails to create something that is both functional and fundamentally green, you guessed it, the stool falls. They are entirely dependent on one another.
You absolutely cannot fix the sustainable product deficit by only pressuring corporations. You have to simultaneously address design innovation and our own purchasing habits.
But within this triad, one specific role acts as the central pivot point. Giapponi notes that industrial design has the task of planning the shape of industrial products, coordinating, integrating, and articulating all factors. And this perfectly highlights how the designer isn't just some artist making things look pretty. They carry a massive, multifaceted burden. They are the vital coordinator of this incredibly complex system. They're the ones actually integrating the raw materials from the earth, the energy constraints to the factory floor, the strict budget from the executives, and the daily functional needs of the user. If they fail to integrate even one of those factors, the entire sustainable project collapses.
Now that we know our suspects and how they're supposed to work together, how do we actually fix the disconnect? Let's look at investigating the future. Before we dig into the methodology, it's really important to note that this isn't simply corporate PR fluff. This is rigorous, peer-reviewed academic analysis backed by esteemed institutions like the Fundación Cátedra Iberoamericana and the National University of La Plata. We are looking at really solid empirical research here.
Let's move to and see how this builds our understanding. The researchers used a really robust two-step methodology to crack the case. Step 1 was a massive documentary review compiling data on where these products come from and establishing product typologies, which is basically a fancy way of saying they classified products strictly by their overall environmental impact and life cycle footprint. Step 2 is where it gets really insightful, though. They conducted direct, face-to-face interviews with industry specialists and independent designers. They literally went straight to the people physically trying to build these sustainable products to ask them, hey, what exactly is bottlenecking your efforts on the factory floor and in the boardroom?
And the answers they found? Well, they led to a really powerful underlying hypothesis for the whole study. The true engine driving our urgent environmental problems isn't merely a lack of clever design or even just a handful of unmotivated, profit-hungry companies. It's our modern mass consumption lifestyle. The sheer overwhelming volume of industrialized production basically dictates everything. The research points out a really stark reality. The speed of modern trend cycles, the fast fashion, the yearly phone upgrades, the instant delivery demands, it drastically outpaces the speed of sustainable innovation. Our relentless pace of buying, using, and discarding is overpowering the system way faster than designers and engineers can physically catch up to neutralize the impact.
Which brings us to a final, very provocative thought I want to leave you with today. Will our current lifestyle and consumption habits ultimately prevent true sustainable design from ever succeeding? It's a heavy question for sure, and it cuts right to the absolute core of the issue. The designer, the industry, and the consumer. We are all in this together. But any real systemic change might ultimately have to start with the sheer volume of demand we generate every single day. So next time you make a purchase, maybe take a second to reflect on your own role in that triad. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those tough questions and keep exploring.